Good afternoon, good afternoon. It's Kate Kibruth here, your content alchemist with some content gold on a Wednesday lunchtime. Like many business owners, I get asked lots and lots of questions about content. Anything from the very simple, like how much does it cost, through to the quite complex about how a process works. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, a series of videos that answer all of the questions you may have had but were too afraid to ask. And this video is going to answer one of the very common questions. It does actually fall into the how long is a piece of string category, which is how long will my content take? Now, it varies massively depending on what the project is. We have a rule of thumb that 500 words will take around about 2 hours of working time, but it's not an exact science. If 2 hours to draft 500 words, it's not 1 hour to draft 250. It's actually more like an hour and a quarter. There's a whole series of rules around why that is, but getting things shorter takes more time. Now, that doesn't mean when you sign the contract, you get your content back within 3 or 4 hours. So I thought to help you understand content creation and how long it takes as an elapse time, not just an effort time, it probably helps to just understand our process. So when you sign a contract, the very first thing that happens is we write a creative brief. It outlines exactly what you've asked us to do, and it captures things like the target audience and the tone of voice that you want us to use and the outcome you want from your content, all of which we'll have discussed before we started work. And you then review that to make sure we haven't missed anything. Now, we use that as our master document, and it takes about 72 hours from the time the contract is signed and everything is in place for us to get that to you for you to review. Now, once that is approved, that goes to our writing team for step 2, which is writing. So we'll assign a member of the team based on their expertise, but also availability to make sure there's someone who can actually do the work, and they will write a first draft. That can take up to 10 days, depending on complexity, depending on availability. And they then pass that straight on to one of our editors. We have a second pair of eyes rule. Every time we write something, we make sure at least 2 of our team have had a look at it. It just makes sure that there's lots more quality built in. Everybody's using the creative brief. The editor is no exception. They use it to make sure that the first draft matches the brief, and then they'll polish up the writing, take out any of the minor errors, that kind of thing. So that takes another 3 to 5 days. Depending on the nature of the project, step 4 will vary. So it might be step 4, we just send you back what you've asked for in a Word document for you to review it. But it might be, if it's, for example, a digital project, you might have other people you're working with. We might pass it straight to a graphic designer or a web developer or a printer for them to work up the next steps. Or we might be doing the setup for you, in which case one of our setup team will go out and find images, add it to web pages, build you the blogs, build the emails, or whatever it is. Depends very much on the project. It might take up to a week. But it's very variable because it depends on how complex the setup is, how much you want changed, all of those different factors. If we've got integration involved, that takes a lot longer because integration, the first time we do it, is always a bit of a pig, and we've got to get access to lots of different systems. So that always causes a few other challenges. Step 5, final polish. Yeah, so in our final polish, again, based on your feedback and how the content looks in its final home, we might make a few tweaks and final adjustments. So, for example, on a web page, we might have created 3 blocks of text that are all 80 words long, but they might just not scan right or look quite balanced on the page. So we'll fiddle about with things to make them look good. And with print, we'll include a professional proofread just to be absolutely sure there's no mistakes before it's committed to paper. And we will try and turn those around within 24 to 48 hours, but again, it depends on how complex the setup has been. And what does that all add up to? Well, on average, around 3 weeks from the time you sign the contract, but it depends on the scale of the project how swiftly you're able to come back to us with any of your comments and sign off and feedback and all of those kinds of things. Plus, naturally, if you said there is a specific deadline, we're going to try and meet that. But we'll have discussed all of that beforehand to make sure that we've hit those specific deadlines. So that's how long it all takes. And you can see why it's not easy to just say, oh, 3 weeks. But that's what we aim towards roughly as our average. So if you've got a project, whether it's simple or complex, and you want to understand how long it might take to get the content to you in its finished form, just click the link in the post above. And of course, if you know someone who you think would find this helpful, share the post, tag them in the comments below. And I will be back in another month answering another common question about the world of content. Have a golden afternoon.